process it. But it is recording now, so I need to stop. So I think that's what we will need to do. So. Good afternoon.
Hello.
So, welcome. We actually thought that the rain and the lightning come in the way, but we're the hardy ones. Here we are. Terrific. Thank you. There are two important announcements before we begin. One is that first we would like to welcome a new TAC member. So would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Andy Ward. I'm from the city of Lacey Lakeview, and I'm the public works director out
Okay. Thank you. So he's our first major addition since we passed the TAC bylaws. And so I think he was already nominated before that. So, and for your benefit, if we can go around the room and introduce ourselves, that would be terrific.
I'm Mitch Davidson. I'm the director of public works. Well, actually, that's my official title, director of community services and development, and I'm also the city engineer for the city of Woodway.
Jeff Jackson, assistant engineer with area office of textile. Clayton Zacco, the area engineer for the textile office.
And I'm Zane Dunn with the county engineer.
I'm a pulp planner with the Waco MPO.
And I'm Mukesh Kumar with Waco MPO.
And I'm Serena Stevenson, the general manager at Waco Transit and the transit manager for McLennan County Transit District.
Amy Brew-Arlene Highland, Public Works Director, City of Waco.
Beatrice Morton, planning services manager with the city of Waco.
I'm Craig Lemon. I'm the city manager for the city of Robinson.
Great. And the second major announcement, someone just whispered in my ear that it is Amy's birthday. Shall we all see?
Me in Mexico. With lots of
That's
Okay, so let's begin. We beginning this meeting, since we no longer do webinar and advanced registration, so we should probably do a roll call. In this case, it will not be necessary because I only see Vijay Gonzalez who joined us, so we will not need to know that. We already have it, and we're actually short of the majority of the TAC members here today.
Is the majority 12 or?
Hello.
Yes, you joined.
Yes. And that I don't have you're gonna have to be rock today, right?
I'll try to do rock justice.
So two new members are presenting Baylor University, and I hate to put you on the spot while you are settling in, but could you please introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. My name is Matt Pitty. I'm the director of parking and transportation at Baylor University, Board of Regents at Waco. So I think I've been in parking and transportation like 20 years.
So terrific. So with two new members, we actually have to start with. I'm really excited about the level of skill set and the awareness of transportation related expertise that we need in the area. So this is a really important group. And so the first item on the agenda today is the election of officers. And at this point in time, we actually do we have a majority? No, I think in total.
I wish somebody would get that quiet sometime.
No, Matt's been working here. We gotta take care we gotta take care of it.
Okay, Okay, so one of the items on the agenda, the first item today was actually to elect the chair and the vice chair. And we have 10 out of total of 7. What is the total number?
16.
16.
It's gonna be more than that.
And so it is up to you all to decide whether you want to nominate someone, and with a simple majority, you can choose to have a chair and the vice chair.
Who's not here?
Okay, yeah. And so it is up to you. Our other option, of course, is we can postpone this from the June meeting. We know that there are 2 people from Textile District. They are attending the Texas Planning Conference at the moment, so they had told us that they would not be able to make it. So it is your pleasure.
I'll recommend we postpone until we have.
I agree.
Okay, then we will postpone this for our June meeting. Even before the June meeting, however, if you would like to send me your name, I'll be happy to send it forward to the entire TAC to say, here are the nominees for both of these positions, chair and vice chair. And once we elect the chair and vice chair, the chair will be conducting this meeting, and we will go over the agenda and the slides with the chair of the meeting beforehand, so that you're familiar with what we would be discussing. So the first thing we need to discuss are these different amendments, and also the draft tip that will be adopted at the next planning board meeting. So walk us through this.
Sure. So none of this is going to be new to any of you here except for 2. So I'll go through it real quickly, and then if you both have questions for me after the meeting, I'll explain it if this doesn't. So this is the.
Is it okay? Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, please go ahead.
I can decide in a little bit.
So before we move further, Mr. Ross, Derek Ross, we have spoken a few times. Would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Sorry, I'm out of breath. So my name is Derek Ross. I'm just a resident of Waco, but I'm from the Waco Indian tribe. Today it's called the Wichita affiliated tribes, Waco, Tawakan, and Keechai. Actually, I was with the tribe Monday through Friday this week.
Great, thank you. Welcome. And we can walk you through some of these legislative.
Sorry to disturb you. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. So today we're going to briefly just touch on the proposed amendment 2 to our Unified Planning Work Program. Amendment 2 would revise the current UPWP to allow unexpended fiscal year 2021 funds for the fixed route alignment study to be carried over into fiscal year 2022, and it would add an additional $48,000 to the budget for summer interns. So a public comment period regarding Amendment 2 began on April 8th, and it'll close in a few days. No formal comments have been received to date. So your recommendation today to the policy board regarding the amendment would be presented to them on May 19th, and after which a public hearing will be conducted. And so the board then will be asking or adopting Amendment 2. So we just need to know what your recommendation to the policy board is today. And I apologize to the 2 of you that are new, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we've heard it for 2 months. So, but I gave you a quick snapshot.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, any discussion?
I just want to say that I think it's a great idea to add that funding to the budget for interns. In our experience, we currently have 1 intern from Baylor University, and it's been such a tremendous help to have them on board, and so I'm really excited about that for them.
Yes, thank you. If there's no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously, we will. So I should also announce that previously we have not listed on policy board presentation what the tax recommendations have been, but moving forward, beginning from the May meeting on the presentation, we will be listing, this is the staff recommendation, this is the TAC recommendation, and then the policy board can choose to decide anyway.
We've
Until
been doing
now.
it this year.
Say again?
We've been doing it this year.
Yes, so,
It's-
okay.
it's Not, but we're trying to get in the habit of always doing it. Sometimes
Yes.
we skipped it.
Yes. Okay, so next.
All right, so amendment 3 to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. That plan is the 2045 long-range plan. So just a snapshot of proposed amendment 3 is it would make revisions to projects in the MPO's long-range plan to maintain consistency with the proposed transportation improvement program for fiscal year 23 through 26, and add adopted transit safety performance targets per the FAST Act requirements. So for those of you that are relative or new, the long range plan, the 2045 MTP is what our current plan that is updated every 5 years. And then as we find funding and resources for projects, they move into the transportation improvement program, which is kind of like a capital improvements program for cities. But when we get there and we know things about the time that we figured out about those projects, we know more, and we have to go back and amend the long range plan because the federal government wants to see consistency between those two plans. So that's all we're doing today is amending the long range plan so that the two documents are consistent. The public comment period for amendment 3 is being conducted concurrently with the UPWP. And then the next thing you'll see, no formal comments have been received on any of them. So again, your recommendation to the policy board will be on May 9th. They'll hear on May 19th, and then there'll be a public hearing following that. So now we'd like your recommendation.
Any
I
questions?
didn't go through it because you're reading. So anyway.
I move that we recommend approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next.
Right, the next, yeah, thank you. The next is the draft fiscal year 23 through 26 transportation improvement program. And I just kind of explain what it is. So this draft tip, we put together programs, the engineering phase for 10 highway projects, the right-of-way phase for 3 of those projects, and the construction phase for 1 project for phase implementation over the next 4 years, 4 fiscal years, excuse me. It also includes programming for the maintenance and operations of the transit system. So also the definition and discussion of group projects would also be slightly revised. Just to bring that to date. So the public comment period was the exact same as the other 2. No formal comments have been received on the tip. And the rest is the policy board will see on the 19th. So we're looking for a recommendation. Staff recommendation, of course, is to adopt it.
Any question related to the draft? Then can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend the policy board to adopt the draft fiscal year 2023 through 2026 transportation improvement plan too.
A second.
Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded, so all in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. So now we move to the strategic planning update from the government.
All right. So we've met, been meeting since March 4th. And so we met 4 times. We're going to be meeting a total of 8 times. We have 4 more meetings. Tomorrow will be our 5th meeting. And I'm the person designated to update you all on what we cover. And Bo Thomas with the City of Hewitt will be updating the policy board on what we covered. And recently we covered the 5-year strategic plan, the TMA designation, and then a shift from project oriented type thinking to a more comprehensive type thinking. And it says up there the 3C planning, and it stands for continuing, because planning continues all the time. It just evolves, and it's just a fluid issue. And then comprehensive, that we're trying to consider all modes of transportation, including vehicles, buses, trains, pedestrians, bicycles, boats, airplanes, all modes of transportation. And then cooperative, we're trying to get all parties to be cooperative in their participation. All parties are all members of the voting board, but also our strategic partners or stakeholders. We're trying to go towards the stakeholder terminology, I believe it's partners. But and those partners or stakeholders are, of course, FHWA, where the money comes from, our taxpayer funds. And then that funnels down into TxDOT, and then TxDOT then kind of gets divvied out to local and other, the COGS. We have regional partners or stakeholders, and those will be our cities and central council of governments. And then we have potential stakeholders, which would be other interested parties, which like the chambers of commerce, traffic generators such as hospitals, grocery stores, malls, Baylor University. And then we have, we covered the who we are. I kind of skipped over that. Our regional identity, we're considering rebranding the naming of the MPO from Waco MPO to the Heart of Texas MPO. That's not been, settled or anything. That's kind of one thing we've been kicking around. Try to be more inclusive so that the other smaller cities don't feel like they're being left out. And, we call it the Waco MPO. Kind of doesn't sit well with some of the other cities. So anyways, we're trying to come up with a new name. So that's who we are. And then our partners or stakeholders, talked about that. Achievement framework, our core responsibilities. We're trying to just identify what our core responsibilities are for the MPO, and then opportunities for growth and improvement. And then trying to come up with visionary opportunities to try to see where we need to be going. From that, we're trying to set goals, objectives, and have a mission. And pretty much we need to be able to connect to the average citizen in every city and in the county so that they understand who the MPO is, what's its function, and how it can help plan for the future growth and future needs when it comes to transportation. And so we're trying to figure out a way to create that message so that it's simple, it's succinct, and we can easily get it out to the masses via TV, radio, internet, paper. And then, of course, once we can better strengthen our stakeholders and partners, we can hopefully then get them to disseminate the information to their organization so everybody kind of buys into who we are, what we were, and what we're trying to accomplish. And then there's this nifty little chart here, kind of gives where we were in March and where we're going through to June. And the ultimate plan is to create a framework and finalize a plan of delivering what we've just kind of talked about, of who we are. How do we communicate that to the average citizen, and how do we improve the MPO as a whole? And then I guess that's any questions. And Mukesh, correct me if I missed anything or if I was totally wrong on it.
No, you did.
Totally wrong.
Boy, I feel like we've accomplished a whole lot in 4 meetings. I'm really impressed with that.
So for some of you who are not familiar, we are going through a strategic planning process for the Waco MPO at the moment. It has 5 members, 2 members from the TAC, Zane and Amy, 2 members from the policy board, both Thomas and Jim Holmes, and 1 citizen representative, Lorraine Dupuy. And they meet every 2 weeks and discuss how do we need to move forward, and actually have a plan for the NPO for certain things that we need to be doing over the next 3 and 5 years. And with the idea being that this needs to be on a regular process, whereby the MPO needs to be on sort of a similar 5-year cycle of strategic planning process, whereby we go through this now, set our goals and targets, and we do an evaluation at the end of finishing the MTP process. And that way, whatever we missed, or new challenges that come up, we can incorporate them in the next 5-year strategic plan for the organization.
Thank you.
And so we have been, this is a really wonderful group, which really gets into the meat and potato of details, and they have been awesome. So thank you. Okay, any other question? Then let's get with our regular project updates.
All right, we can move on to the first project here. Our Waco Drive ADA job continue to make pretty good progress. We've completed the vast majority of the foundation installations. We'll be hanging mast arms over the next few weeks. That's going to require some temporary traffic stops and then working sidewalk primarily on the east end of the job, working towards Valley Mills. 18th Street ADA, working from west to east, installing new sidewalk between Waco Drive and LaSalle. Continuing to make good progress there as well. We have a daily lane closure set up, and that'll continue through the year. Excuse me.
Yeah, FM 185 is just west of Crawford. It's a rehab and widen roadway, upgrade safety elements. Making good progress there. They're set to be wrapping that up in the next couple of months. They've got the widening performed. They got hot mix down on most of it. There's another section that they're finishing up, and we'll be wrapping that up shortly.
All right, apologies there. State Highway 31, this is a Weber job, so same contractor as the interstate. Again, this is constructing a new overpass there at the 939 intersection. They're primarily working on the new eastbound bridge. They've started paving operations on the westbound side of the intersection of the county road connection. And then along with that, have started the widening work between 31 and Happy Swinger. That's a project that we look to wrap up next summer. Spring Valley widening. This project just kicked off over the last couple of weeks. The big focus area so far is between Sun Valley and Old Temple Road. Big Creek has come in and placed temporary striping to shift traffic to what I'm going to call the east side of Spring Valley. We're setting low pro barrier to start our temporary widening to the west. That'll be continuing through the summer, and work in front of the school will take place during the summer when school is out. But this is roughly a 2.5-year project, so we look to wrap up in fall of 24. State Highway 6 Malden Mall, again, continuing to make good progress on this one as well. We're scheduled, weather permitting, hopefully to pour the first U-turn structure actually Friday night. And that would be the east to west U-turn. The other side of the intersection is scheduled to be poured next week tentatively. We hope to have the first of those U-turns opened up later this spring. And then we're working on the new frontage road bridges. There's a Beverly Crossing. We expect to have those bridges in place this summer and hopefully open to traffic this fall. One thing to note is we will have a closure of Exchange Parkway that's actually scheduled to start Monday. That'll be approximately a 2-week closure there. I-35 4B, again, another one that just continues to move. I won't go through each of these, but below there's an update on the milestones. We're currently working on the northbound side. We've charged 340 days of our allowable 495. We anticipate completing well ahead of that time frame. We're actually looking at, I'll go through here in a minute, we're actually looking at opening up some of our new northbound pavement by Memorial Day potentially, with the rest of it coming later this summer. Then substantial completion milestone, again, we've charged 896 of an allowable 1,150 days and anticipate coming in below that 1,150. All right, south end of the project, again, you can see the vast majority of concrete's in place for both frontage roads, main lanes. We've got some minor tie-in work that will take place towards the end of May. And about the time that's wrapped up is when you'll see traffic potentially pushed on that new northbound pavement. Here at 11th, 12th Street, again, all the bond breakers now, steel is being placed. This is one that will probably see pavement late this month and be opened up to traffic towards the summer timeframe. Same areas looking to the south, again, you can see the majority of the northbound main lane pavement in place, some of our sign structures going up. You're good. And again, the frontage rows basically completed there. Since this picture was taken, it's roughly 6 to 8 weeks old. We've completed the main lane paving tying in 11th, 12th, and 4th, 5th Street in this area, and are working primarily up at the 4th and 5th Street intersection. Here at 4th and 5th, again, you can see the connection to 4th and 5th Street coming together underneath the main lanes there. The biggest areas of work left to complete are on the west side of 5th Street or on the CVS. Work should really pick up there over the next few weeks, and this is another one that by midsummer you should see traffic in its final configuration to this intersection. Looking to the north towards University Parks, again, since this photo was taken, we've completed the full width paving tying in the 4th and 5th Street bridges to the University Park overpass. Work is ongoing at University Parks. We place asphalt bond breaker on both sides of the intersection. It will be paving later this spring, and again, hopefully have this one open to traffic this summer. Directly overhead at Brazos River, bridge has been complete. Paving is tied in on both sides now, so again, it's just working on things like traffic rail and getting it tidied up. Looking to the north at MLK, one thing to note is that on-ramp there just north of the river was open to traffic since our last meeting. So we've got a permanent ramp opened here. Again, just looking back to the south, again, you can see the ramp I just mentioned there at the bottom of the page. Directly overhead at MLK, bridge structure is complete. Paving is tied in on both sides. Paving has started actually on the U-turns since this photo was taken, and should be opened up later in May. And then our UPRR overpass, again, paving is complete, bridge is complete. And this, again, will be an area that we look to open up later in May. 4th Street, with 77 to the north being one of our last big areas of work remaining, this will be the limits of our traffic switch on new pavement. So you would get on to the new northbound side at 17th to 18th, carry through, and then transition over to the southbound side, roughly under the 4th Street underpass. Here's 77, again, another intersection that's starting to come together. We've paved the west side of the intersection. Actually, next week we'll start making some preparations to get portions of this opened up to new concrete pavement as well. So there'll be some closures coming up. And then one thing to note, 77, that bridge has now been completed. So we have completed all new bridges on the project as of last week. Again, looking back to the south at 77, concrete paving operations have started for the northbound main lanes here. And again, I mentioned the intersection work that just continues. Looking to the north, you can see what was the temporary exit to US 84. This ramp was closed last week when we opened the permanent exit to 77 in its place. This ramp should come back later this summer. Looking at the 84 intersection, again, this bridge has been completed, wrapping up retaining wall work on both sides. This is an area that will receive concrete pavement this month. Paving has been completed on the 84 intersection, and we should be making some traffic shifts, if not later this month, the first part of June, to get a lot of the 84 intersection wrapped up. Again, looking to the north, this is an area where we've opened up that northbound pavement already. We're working on wrapping up the permanent center barrier and a hot mix tie-in at the very north end of the project. And once that's completed, we'll have 3 lanes opened up from roughly Barron's overpass through the north limits of the project. Here's just a direct overhead shot of Barron's. Again, you can see the newly open pavement, and the vast majority of the Barron's intersection has been completed with some minor intersection work there on the south side. Any questions, comments on any of the projects?
How often do you do the aerial pictures?
We had been doing them quarterly. With some of the bigger traffic shifts we've had coming up, we like to get them right before the shift and right after too. So hopefully we'll have some new ones that makes sense.
Does your contractor do those, or do y'all do?
It's actually our CEI, our consultant engineering and inspection team.
Oh, okay.
They provide those drone photos to us.
Is that BGE or who's that?
Yes, sir. BGE, yes, sir.
We're happy that you have them because we've been using them too since they're already in.
That's what I hear.
We're short on capacity for consultants in Waco right now for the amount of work we have.
Any other question? Okay. Here is a little bit of a small change that we are working through for the next 3-4 meetings during the TAC and the policy board. So one of the new items we're going to start putting up is the work group updates. And the idea is that the 4 work groups that we created as part of the TAC bylaws, that they will start offering updates based on their own discussions to both TAC and the policy board. As of this moment, we only have bicycle and pedestrian work group that is active. They are expected to meet at May 18th, I believe, Wednesday. Anyone from the TAC, you're welcome to join. And this is also National Bike Month. And so on that day, we will see if we can organize at least a short bike ride. And instead of meeting in a conference room, hopefully we can meet on the trail somewhere. And so, of course, you'll hear about some of those plans as we work that out. But these are the 4 work groups that we have created. We have a small list of people who have shown interest, and we have started putting them together into a single group. And we expect to have, as we move forward, we expect to have regular meetings for all 4 work groups. One of the things for the work groups that is really going to be important is that for each one of you, if you feel like you have anyone from your staff or somebody even among the citizens who show up at your council meetings or any other discussions who you think would be able to contribute to any of these work groups, by all means, drop us a note and we can follow up with them and invite them to join any of these work groups. The idea behind these work groups is that they will meet and they will formally yet treating it more like a work session. They'll discuss not only opportunities that we have available to us, what has been done so far, and what are some of the things that we could be doing in future. And these work groups are going to be especially important as we move forward in our process for redefining the call for proposal and project selection criteria. Because ultimately, TAC is going to really drive that process of developing call for proposal. But I think TAC will benefit tremendously if work groups are fully integrated and they're fleshing out a lot of these ideas beforehand so that we can have even more refined discussions at the TAC. And so if you have any person in mind from your staff or even from your citizenship, please be sure to let us know.
Do you think we could get somebody from SpaceX on the connected and automated vehicle group?
I think that's a really good idea.
I try to come up with at least one good idea.
Yeah.
That's a challenge to all y'all.
We're setting the bar.
Great.
I'll also see if somebody from our formerly municipal information, and I can't remember what the name of it is now, but it has marketing and something in the name. I think there might be somebody there who would help us with citizen participation.
Yeah, certainly. Any other thought, suggestion? For some of the smaller cities, we know that in these work groups, we do have really good participation from traffic and buildings division. But we do not have a lot of participation from other cities. And so if you have anyone who, and it does not have to be a city employee, it could be a citizen who has been talking quite a bit about anything related to land use or bike pedestrian or connected automated vehicle, please let them know, or just drop us their name and we can follow up. So after that, one of the things we're changing is that previously we used to simply put a director's report, and we have decided that we're going to call this monthly report and announcements, because a lot of things we have been doing were really just announcements. So so we should keep it separate, that there are announcements, and I would be and I think it would be important for me to at least update you with any organizational changes that MPO maybe having on a monthly basis, so that you're fully familiar with what's happening. So for the monthly report, there are two separate things that we decided, and feel free to suggest any changes as well to this, because we think that we need to have a separate membership update as well as an organizational update. And in the membership update, each one of you can update us with any particular project that you're looking at, or any particular changes that are happening in your area that we need to be aware of, so that we can follow up with them. And then I will do an organizational update in which I can give you an update about what the MPO has been looking at. So for the membership update, instead of going, I'm hoping that if you prefer, we can just go around in a circle, and if there is anything particular that you want to share, or if you do not have anything to share, then you can do that too. So will it be okay if we start today? And maybe we'll begin with Rich.
I like that.
I like it, because it gives me time to think.
Sorry for coming on the spot. No, I don't think we don't have a lot of big projects or anything going on. Our biggest projects are on the utility side, not the transportation side right now. And we are doing some small, we're going to start our typical street maintenance project over the summer. So there'll be some lane closures and such for that, but usually it's very short for the day. Anything else? I know the one that did get some interest, we had a few people show up at the public meeting for the double diamond interchange, and I got to explain that to some people, how it works.
Yeah.
They don't understand it, and so I just said, I've told our management team when that time comes, it will be a challenge, and I've told my officers to get ready to write tickets, because people are going to be in the wrong spot. Hopefully we're pretty patient about that. That did get some people's attention, I want to say, so it's good that they're interested in it. I know that project in general is probably the one that got most of our attention, just moving the lanes, and then just changing the ramp locations. Got their attention. That was a good meeting to have. I think we got some good people. Hopefully y'all did too.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to explain that? Does everybody understand what he's talking about?
Well,
I can speak a little bit too.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was just, well, that's about it. We're doing some minor reconstruction on Bush Drive that ties into the Frontage Road. That's got some of industrial businesses confused. Other than that, there's not much going on. Everybody's mad about their tax prices. That's mainly what.
Clayton, any update?
Outside of the presentation.
I'll have a question. This might be an Amy question on 18th Street and Waco Drive. Since those are close partnership with the city, who'd be the best point of contact? I've got some utility issues and property owner issues. I've been going through Jim on 18th Street. Is that the best person to go through on having to make some changes there?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Yeah. Same thing for Waco Drive.
That would probably be Steve.
Steve, okay.
Yeah, because he and Mac were the ones who spearheaded that design work.
We'll run a couple things by them.
There's nothing going on in the AC. Except,
Sometimes that's a good thing, right?
well, except for when I-35 backs up and it goes all the way to road ranger, but that's okay.
End of the year.
I know, I'm hoping off. Let's go, do your job. Right. That's good.
I just had a few comments. First off, the county, there's most of what we're doing is drainage improvements way out and way out where nobody's driving. So it's not going to really affect any transportation here. I was surprised that Mitch did mention that there was a little bit of development going on in Woodway, but
It's still in the preliminary planning. But
there's going to be some roads associated with that.
And a little controversy.
A little bit of controversy as well. I wanted to say thank you to the city of Waco for getting some signs on the intersections of, I want to say it's China Spring Road, and those big crossroads on the Pioneer Parkway. I will say we talked about this previously, it was just needed to be for the people that are moving into the area. Those are large intersections, people driving fast. You come up on those intersections, you have no idea what the crossroads are to turn and go look for houses. So I don't know if all of the intersections have been signed, and I know it's an issue between TxDOT and Waco and who's responsible for putting the signs, who are allowed to put the signs on the TxDOT cross braces. So I would like for maybe that to be just reviewed and make sure all those get put up. I had one other thing, if I can remember, the diverging diamond. So for those that don't know, TxDOT put on, in a couple of weeks now, I think, a little show and tell about what they plan to do at the intersection of Highway 84 and Hewitt Drive, also known as the States. Going to Woodway. States Drive. Right. And the one comment that I had for the TxDOT design engineer, Mr. Lamb, Brian Lamb, was that everything looks like it's going to work. It's crazy when you look at it. What they do is, let's just say you're in Hewitt and you're going over 84 into Woodway. You're actually going to cross over into what would be the oncoming traffic, go across 84 and then cross back over to go into Woodway. And same way, when they're coming out of Woodway, they're going to cross over and be on this side of the road, coming into Hewitt, and then cross back over. And then they're going to do some frontage roads underneath the bridge that goes over 84. So it's kind of confusing when you look at it on a set of plans from a bird's eye view. But my comment to Brian Lamb with TxDOT was, what happens when we have bad weather, electrical lightning hits the electricity and all the lights go out and you got people doing this, and then you got Woodway's police officers coming out there wanting to write tickets. And then you got Waco, because they're on their side of the bridge. You got Waco coming out there because they're on their side of the bridge wanting to write tickets. And then you got Hewitt, who's right down the street going, hey, can we write tickets? So
we need revenue too.
Right. And then they call, well, this is the county, right? Or TxDOT. Who we call it? TxDOT to come write tickets. So yeah, it could be a mess big time if they lose electricity. And I thought there needs to be some coordination. Now this is down the road. This road's not going to be done next year. They're probably 2, 3, 4 years out from this even getting started, maybe. At least. So, I mean, they're going to need to coordinate whenever they do get ready to build this thing, make sure that the city police and fire and ambulances are all coordinated, who goes where and all that kind of stuff, especially when the electricity goes off.
They do have battery backups.
Yeah. Probably solar and it's a cloudy day. Anyway, so that's what I.
Okay, for Waco Transit, we've just finished up phase 2 of our public participation for our fixed route real environment study. We're just looking at some different scenarios with regards to enhancing our transit system. And so I hope that each of you took an opportunity to participate and provide any type of feedback with respect to the changes that we're proposing. We'll be meeting with the steering committee later this month and incorporating the last amount of public feedback that we received through this Wednesday. Actually, we're still taking comments, and then we'll include that into the draft scenarios and present that to the steering committee. And then from there, hopefully they'll provide some direction on which option they believe would be viable for us to present to council. Ultimately, council will make the decision. And then from there, we will receive an implementation plan on which direction we're going to take with enhancing the fixed routes, incorporating a full BRT, or operating a modified segment of BRT. And so that's one of the big projects we have here. We're also in some conversations about what type of vehicles we want to look at with regards to electrification and being a transit system of the future. That we've got some grants that'll be due at the end of this month. So we have some conversations set up about a transition plan. We'll have to start small because again, putting the people infrastructure as well as the facility, and it's not just like a vehicle that you plug into your garage. There's a whole approach that we have to take to transitioning, and it would be a small incremental process. We're looking at maybe 2 buses initially, but there's some pilot programs where they can come out and run those around what direction we take with the fixed route. And so we're just trying to really think about what do we need to do today to capitalize on this money that's out there so that we can begin to be a transit future that's looking at a transit system that's looking at the opportunities that assist us with the future. And so that's our major projects, but I do want everyone around here to know that's in this room that if you're in one of the smaller counties that's in McLennan County, smaller cities in McLennan County, we provide McLennan County Rural Transit District services. And so we've been going out, having conversations with the Kiwanis clubs in West. We've been having a conversation with a group in Marlin last week, just to talk about the commuter routes and help people understand how that works, about an application process. Because I really believe a lot of people don't realize that McLennan County Rural Transit District is there to provide service, and you can go anywhere you need to go, and it connects in with Waco Transit System, and we run it through an interlocal agreement. And so I just want to put that out. If anybody has a group that they'd like for us to come and speak with, or we did the county chamber groups. We've talked to them about what we have. We went and talked to the industry leaders, and so out at Texas TSTC. So I just want you guys to know if there's an opportunity there for us to present to a group in your area, please let me know. We'll definitely put together a presentation that's specific to what you want us to discuss. So that's all for Waco Transit. Sorry.
Sabrina, have you seen an increase in use for rural transit with the increase in the cost of fuel?
I have.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, if I had a gas guzzler, it'd be cheaper for me to take the bus in and out of, I'm on the tail end of McLennan County and Valley Mills.
And then
$3 each way,
yeah,
it'd be a lot less than people spend on fuel.
And the good thing about what we're trying to do creatively with McLennan County is trying to visit with like some of the police departments and the community groups to where we can have our vehicles housed in those smaller communities. And so people aren't having to drive into Waco and then head back out to West, because that's more of a cost-effective way for us to operate as well. We're spending fuel to go out to West to start that service. But if I can work with those community leaders and have vehicles staged there, and then they can provide those services kind of like in a geo-coded area, and then we bring those vehicles back in, because other rural services do it throughout Texas. It's just looking at things from a different perspective from what you've always done. So we're trying to get creative to be cost effective, employ some people in those smaller communities, entice them to stay. They know those areas. So again, it enhances our safety performance. And so just getting creative, because we can't do it the way we used to do it, because it is a employee shortage across the board for, I'm sure, many of you, and it has impacted transit significantly for our
but we still require to meet that demand the best way we can. And so we want to provide a quality service, so we're just trying to get creative, so. Sorry, we're on the transit.
I asked.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple things I thought up while I had the time while we were going around. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We are, you may have heard, doing a little basketball stadium on the river there. That might have some impacts on everybody, and I think between us and Baylor, we just got the traffic impact study started. So we will, I hope, have some good thoughts about what we need to do to make sure we can accommodate that traffic, having that in the downtown area. And also along those lines, we are partway through a planning study with Dylan Horn for the Waco downtown implementation plan. It's sort of looking at envisioning downtown and what do we want downtown to look like. And part of the impetus for that was me, for when we did the two-way on Washington Avenue. We didn't have enough money to look at a lot of streetscape there, so we made a commitment to council that we would come back. We would look at what do we want our streetscape to be, and we would come back to council with a more comprehensive plan. Because what I was seeing was that every time we have a different consultant, their vision is different for what we should look at or look like, or what amenities we should have. So we're fairly well along in that process. We have a steering committee, and I believe next week we're going to be kicking off a public involvement part, and we will have a website. It's design.dt for downtownwaco.com. And I think that will be active next week after we brief council about it. And it'll be a tool for citizens to engage and tell us what they think our downtown should look like and what types of elements we should have, so that we have some sort of consistency, but we also have some diversity with the different types of neighborhoods or different types of architecture that we have in the city. So I'll keep you all updated on that as it comes along.
Amy, if you see that website, I'll get it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know it's, you guys are probably gonna be talking about this, but I attended that and that was a really good one. So that's all I have.
I don't have a whole lot. Just excited that we finally got our long-range planning manager on board. So she's going to be helping with some of the updates that we have for implementation and updates for the comprehensive plan. I'm not sure if she's going to be involved with that steering committee for the downtown.
She was on the meeting.
Okay.
Where
So
is she on?
she's kind of in that new section of our building. where
Oh, okay.
The,
That used to be the plan.
that used to be like the
For all the
overflow
flats and stuff.
storage and all that. Yeah. So they got converted into offices. So just excited about that. And as you know, Waco's growing. We've got a lot of projects coming down the pipeline. Voluntary annexations that are coming through the process and being reviewed by Plan Commission and Council, which obviously has an impact on our road system. And so it's been interesting to me just to see what that process looks like and some of those development agreements that have to take place through that. And so I think through this group, I'd like to learn a little bit more about what that looks like. And then also how we are recovering some of the costs through impact fees that are now implemented. And so once we get through all of the phasing that some subdivisions are able to take advantage of the first 5 years, it'll be good to see how we are recovering some of those costs. And if we need to revisit the impact fee in the future.
I think that depends on who we have on council at the
Yes. Yes.
I was going to mention basketball. You already said.
Sorry. You probably have a different spin on it from me, though.
No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be beautiful down by the river. It's going to be challenging, specifically the parking piece of it. And so how do you park in that last mile? How do you disperse out of that once the game is over? That's in the works.
Constructing in the floodplain is a little challenge too.
Probably the project we have in Robinson that would have an impact on others around here is Waco Industrial Foundation has a property there across from Hillcrest Hospital. They're at the intersection of Highway 6 and 35. And there's been a lot of interest in it, but there's no road on that property. And so that's been an impediment for us. We're finalists for an 800,000 square foot distribution center. Old Navy last year, not having a road caused us to lose that project to Longview, ended up getting that project. So we were one of two finalists. So we've working with the Waco Industrial Foundation, we've come to the realization we have to build at least part of a road on that property. They do actually have a potential buyer for one piece of property. So we're partnering with them. The county commissioners have graciously offered to kick in about $500,000. So we're going to build the first 2,700 linear feet of roadway. It'll connect on the service road of I-35 across Corporation Parkway between our elevated tank and the Encore power lines, go back into the property. We've created the TERS there, but that 640 acres is tax exempt, being held by the Waco Industrial Foundation under economic development clause there. So it's hard to get increment on something that's tax exempt right now. So we're hoping to get some projects in there and start getting some increment that will become the funding source to build the rest of that roadway all the way to Greg Street. So we anticipate that once we get that road in there, there's every week somebody's inquiring about property in there, but the road is the impediment. So we're anticipating. So we've completed surveying, we have funding in place, geotech, everything's done. Hopefully traffic impact study is going to get started pretty quick. We know we're going to have to do something with deceleration, maybe acceleration lanes on the service road there. So we get that figured in. But we would like to be in a position to, before this year is over, to have dirt moving and have something planned to be finished sometime next year. Get that thing going. So that for us will be pretty big because that's a large. 2/3 of that land is envisioned to be industrial, but there is a component up the front closest to Highway 6 that the Industrial Foundation is envisioning some mixed use with maybe some commercial retail and even multifamily. It's potential to create a lot of traffic over in that area as we go forward.
Any question? Great, thank you. Would you like to give us an update?
So I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. So my name is Derek Ross. I was born in Anadarko, Oklahoma, which is where the Wichita affiliated tribes is located today. And if I could get to know anybody in all the cities, I would be excited about that, primarily for cultural education, heritage, and those kind of things. That's my biggest heart. But I was born in Anadarko. I lived about half my life in Oklahoma, and then I moved to Texas, actually Aransas Pass. I joined the Marine Corps, and I was gone from the United States a long time. And for the last 20 years, I've been in the Philippines. So I haven't really served my tribe at all. But in September of last year, the tribe asked me to represent the tribe at a number of events around Texas, Grapevine, University of Texas, and some other places that are making land acknowledgements. I think Baylor is getting really close to that. So last December, I took Bobby Horner, Fiona Bond, Charlie Walter, Trey Crumpton, and Carla Pendergraft to Oklahoma to visit the president of our tribe and the First Americans Museum, which is in Oklahoma City. If anybody wants to really learn about Native American history, that's the premier place in the United States. But Indian tribes, there are about 575 tribes in the United States, 39 in Oklahoma. Indian tribes are sovereign nations like Colombia or Brazil. So we have governments and treaties with the US government, which opens up some opportunities for us in regards to small businesses. And we have 5 companies, 2 of those are at NASA. And over the course of, I don't know if I can just a couple of seconds here. Archaeologists at the Galt site in Austin, Texas would say that the tribe, Wichita people, are living in this space from Kansas City to Waco for about 20,000 years. I think it's probably 2,000 years. 800 AD, you can find Wichita grass houses all across almost the whole of Kansas, mostly southern Kansas, all of Oklahoma, all of northern Texas, past Waco, some all the way down to the Guadalupe River. And so the first encounter with foreigners was around 1541, Coronado. And I think they found 160,000 of our tribe living across a large area. And so we've been here a long time. I speak the language of the Waco people. Today it's called Wichita. So Wichita, Waco, Tawakoni, not Kichai, but Wichita, Waco, and Tawakoni tribes speak a language, and it's called Wichita today. So if you spoke to someone who was Waco 200 years ago, it would be Wichita. And as an example, Kitty-Kiddish is the word for Wichita. Kitty-Kiddish, Tatzak, that means we are, actually means Wichita we are, but we are Wichita. So I really want to help people understand culture. And so that's the part of the Baylor has a great interest, especially Charlie, Walter, those people have great interest in. Bobby Horner, the Byron Johnson from the Ranger Museum, I'm talking with them. But if I can help any of the cities, that would be great. But the reason I'm sitting here, I think that one of the reasons is Mukesh invited me to a meeting. Can I say those numbers? So so we have businesses. So the tribe has, in 1820, we're 500 people. Today we're 3,600 people. Coronado, we're 160,000 as they can see. So we're really come a long way just to survive. But we have 5 companies today. If you're a tribe, you might be a multi-million-dollar company. So our tribe is very small, but it's like a multi-million-dollar company. So our president is a CEO, and we can establish 8A companies. So if you Google 8A Native American companies, you'll get a definition of what that means. But basically, for 9 years, you can access federal. DOT, Department of Defense contracts, and you kind of get bumped to the head of the line a little bit possibly. And so we're able to do those kind of, we have a business at Tinker Air Force Base. And so kind of accidentally landed in Waco a year ago-ish. And so, but because of the opportunities for me to represent the tribe in Grapevine and other places, and the Waco Tribune ran an article, and that got Bobby Horner running around introducing me to everybody. So I'm happy. I met a lot of really great people. Waco's a beautiful city. But Bobby invited me, actually, I think Mukesh asked me to come to a meeting because I don't know if I get this right, but I think there's about $1 billion federal money on one tier, and then 300 million on another tier, and about 8 million on another tier, depending. And so those funds are available for use across the United States if a city is working with a Native American tribe. The challenge here is most of the time those funds are available. I sound like I know what I'm talking about, right? Most of those funds are available for somewhere within the region where the tribe's at. So, but there's a possibility that some of those funds are available. So as an example, we could access those federal funds and help with infrastructure, all these things that you're doing. If there's a way to do that, we would help with infrastructure. Where maybe it sounds like one of the big things that you need is funds, because it's a challenge to build things. It's a Texas or whoever's only giving you a certain amount of money. So it would be a joy to me if I could help somehow, just because I'm from Wichita tribe, if I could help facilitate that, one, because it would help Waco and the greater Waco, all the other cities. But if it could help, that would be great. But also, I have a passion for my tribe. I grew up in my culture and my language. And there's a huge tie to me specifically. If you ever have seen any of the Gildersleeve or a photo, you probably saw 7 or 8 Indian people who were here in 1900 something or other. And the man on the far right, that guy's name is Tawakoni Jim. If you ever saw that photo, it's on the hallway at Carla, the building where Carla's at. And so that man is Wichita, but he was the chief of our tribe. And he's actually Waco, and he was born in Waco, and he died in Anadarko, and he's buried at the cemetery. Our tribe has I grew up at Rock Springs Indian Baptist Church, so that church is 174 years old. That church, there are people who are buried there where their tombstones are born in Waco, and then they died in Anadarko. And so those funds are available that Mukesh is talking about. So we're just kind of, so we have an industrial development commission, some people at the tribe who do our business things that we do. And so I was looking at that with Mukesh, and I'm forwarding all these things that you're sending and all the stuff that you're doing to our people at the tribe. And then Bobby's super industrious, and he's introduced me to some people at SpaceX. So I'm about to go meet with those people. But and I had a small conversation with Serena, which was a great conversation, and all of y'all are super professional. I'm so excited about the direction of the city. And actually, I lived in Austin in 1987, and I'm just saying, Austin, I was 20 years old. Austin kind of looked like Waco. It kind of felt like Waco if anybody was in Austin. And so probably there are a lot of people who don't want Waco to grow, but it's inevitable. And so I think if you do the right job through this infrastructure and all this transportation, that'll make the city great. But if there's a way we can maybe establish some businesses that help with the infrastructure, that'll be wonderful. It might not happen, it's just a lot of, if you're dealing with the federal government, it's a lot of paperwork and things to do. I spoke with Serena and I spoke with Mukesh about providing, and actually I had a meeting this morning with someone who has a heart for the demographic of people who, we have 3 cars. I'm a missionary, we have 3 cars, they're old cars. But there's a lot of people who don't have cars or have cars that don't work. And if you're in that demographic, and it's really difficult, probably, I've already spoken to, I've been here only a year, but I think it's really difficult to get to the grocery store and the hospital and those kind of things. Probably the people in this room don't have to experience that, but there are a lot of people, and so helping those people would be great. And so if we could, provide some infrastructure with a company, or I don't even know, need to learn more about what Serena is doing, but if there are places where Waco Transit cannot get to, and we can create a company that picks up those arteries or those places, or an Uber type company that can help people with groceries and hospital and whatever, that would be great. So I'm really a missionary. I'm not really a businessman anymore. I was before, but I have a heart for people, and I'm just trying to do whatever I can do while I'm standing around in Waco. Hope that.
Thank you very much. I should mention that when we were reviewing the current infrastructure bill, one of the things that jumped out at us was that there is significant amount of money that is available for transportation projects on tribal land. And at that point in time, Greg was the only person who I was aware of that, but I'm still fairly new. And so we had a really good conversation, and since then we have been trying to figure out what really is the best way to move forward, because there is significant amount of resources that is going to be available under the current infrastructure bill, and it will be good if we could tap into at least some of them. We're still gathering some more information about McLennan County, because for us, that's the area that we would be working on. But at the same time, if we can at least offer information to areas outside McLennan County, did absolutely outside of that, so.
I was just to say one more thing, so I forgot to say this, so the trip to Anadarko on Monday, I was there all week, but the trip to Anadarko on Monday was to consult with the tribe. My uncle is the one person in the Wichita tribe who can build a grass house, so we're gonna build a grass house for the Mayborn Museum probably next summer, but my uncle is starting on a miniature model of that now. But if there are anybody in any of the cities, I'm working as a consultant for Baylor right now in regards to culture and just the connection to the tribe. But if anybody also wants to know anything about the history of the Waco Indians or Wichita tribe, it's my passion. So I would be excited to, I mean, if somebody has a history or something at the library in your city or just anything, you know, historical something or other, I would like to help in any way possible.
Thank you. Any question? Okay, then let me segue quickly into this. We're past the hour. So as Amy mentioned, she and a couple of other people were on this, and Serena was on this call with the Safe Street and Roads for All grant. And what Annette pulled out this fact sheet that she's put together. If you don't have a copy of it, please make sure that you have it. So during the webinar, one of the very important things that came out was what I was most impressed with, that they were, okay, let me back up a bit. So we have at the MPO, we adopted the Vision Zero targets that TxDOT had put out for fatality, crashes and such. And it's one thing to adopt these targets, the performance targets, and it's a very different thing to actually be able to do something about it. Now, in the United States, there has been quite a bit of discussion about how Vision Zero adoption in the United States has not yielded the kind of results that it did in Sweden or Norway, where the Vision Zero idea began in the first place. And especially in the last 2 years, the fatalities and the crashes have actually gotten significantly worse. The accidents are worse. And as we are trying to move forward with complete street policies, accommodating different modes of transportation, in fact, the points of conflicts are growing, and at least if the results are the only indication, we are obviously not doing very well. And so one of the results of that is that in the current infrastructure bill, there is between $5 to $6 billion that has been allocated to this program called SS4A. There are three types of projects that are going to get funded. One is a comprehensive safety action plan, and that's the one which I thought we need to be embarking on. And I would very much, I'm very much interested in sort of moving forward, putting together a rubric for it, getting the level of interest that each of the city has, each of the municipality has in participating in it, so that we can in fact have a comprehensive safety action plan for the entire McLennan County. Now, I should also point out that during the discussion, during the webinar, and since then the follow-up that we have done, what is also very clear to us is that this comprehensive safety action plan is not going to be all about driver safety or driver training alone. It's also not going to be about psychological health of the distracted driving, meaning it's not going to be all driver oriented, driver focused. It also needs to be very focused on how this transportation system overall works. And that includes not only the design element of the physical infrastructure that we have, but also looking at some of the land use planning that occurs with it, because quite often there was a very interesting question that if somebody wanted to put a whole bunch of trees, for instance, we know that trees change our perception of speed, and people tend to drive a lot slower if there is tree canopy that gives us a different perception of speed altogether. And the person presenting sort of hesitated a bit, and they said that, well, if it is part of your comprehensive safety action plan, then you probably can put that as an implementation grant. And so we have one major category which they are funding, that's the comprehensive safety action plan development. And they are in Federal Highway Administration, they have decided to allocate at the minimum of 40% of the first $1 billion this year in 2022, only to the planning purposes. The remaining, and that's the minimum. They seem, based on their conversation, that the other two types of project funding, one could be the demonstration projects for existing plants that exist, and then the third are the plants that already exist from which the projects can be brought out. So those are the three different types of projects that they intend to fund. For us, we also looked at our active transportation plan as well as thoroughfare plan, because these were the two planning documents which we can probably pull out some of the projects that we can consider. So if you haven't, please do look at them. I know that both of these, especially the thoroughfare plan, is a little bit outdated now. It does need some update, which is on our radar, and we will make progress on that. But active transportation plan actually potentially can yield some direct project which we can then start implementing. Now, anybody can apply, and anybody sitting here can apply for these SS4 grants.
Not TechStop, right?
No, I'm sorry, yes.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys. So actually, state is explicitly excluded from being an applicant. So for us, what the presenters were also emphasizing upon is that it is really important to produce these projects as a coordinated project rather than single entity project. And this is the reason why I think it would be great if we could come up with. So what I'm thinking, so my thought process at this point in time is very preliminary because the webinar was yesterday and day before. And so so we have actually had 2 days to think this through. At the next meeting, I will, based on your input, I will actually have some broad framework of how to approach it. And then at the next meeting, I'm also going to ask you if this is something that you will be supporting so that I can then ask the policy board to give us a green light so that we can move forward. One of the important part to keep in mind is that for each of these projects, there is a 20% local match that is going to be required. And I looked through the local match portion of the, correct me, I know I keep forgetting, 2 CFR 200.03. No. I thought I got it. But anyway. This is just one of those internal jokes we have. We keep testing each other. Who remembers these CFR codes accurately? Anyway, the one that talks about the in-kind match for the 200, we were looking through that. There is significant amount of in-kind donation that is allowed. And so each of the municipalities, for instance, the staff hour that you may put in toward the project, those are all allowed to be treated as in-kind match. So in this particular case, the impression I'm under is that for the planning portion of the project, especially where we develop the plan, I do not think that they have made a decision yet, and they seem to give the impression that they intend to not allow the rating to be influenced by percentage of local match, meaning that it's most likely going to stay at 80-20, which I see as a really good thing, because previously in most of the federally funded project, local match has a weight associated with it. So higher the local match results in higher value. So in this particular case, it's most likely, as I mentioned, they have not made a final decision about the project selection criteria yet, but they did give the impression that most likely for the planning projects, it's going to be 80-20. For implementation projects, they may end up deciding putting some rating on the local match. So I will have more information about, but this is something that I really do want us to have a conversation on so that we can, I sort of feel like trying to put together the comprehensive safety action plan would be the first step, so that then within the same infrastructure bill in subsequent years, we can start applying for implementation grants so that we can actually fund some of these projects. Nice thing about it is that, until now, most of the funds we deal with here at the TAC level are state for roadways that are state funded. Most of the alternative funds, we do not tackle them here because we're not TMA. But this is a really great opportunity for each of the city to seriously start looking into it. During the summer, one of the things that we have decided at the MPO to do is to map out all the crash data that we can, at least for the last 5 to 6 years, match them appropriately. So using the CRIS database that we have, Chris. So the Chris database that,
They're already doing it.
yeah, so are you also trying to match them? Do you
Yeah,
have
we
them
get the
with-
data every week.
Okay, so.
Are you not?
That's a good question. I'll have to ask Jake if they are.
Yeah, so this is something which what I see that we can collectively decide. One of the things that's going to happen is that my understanding is that there are some crash data that have geocoding problems, and some of it has to do with where the crash happened and how the police report got made. They do not necessarily match. So we will try to develop that as accurately as possible for the during the summer, so that we can use that as a basis for forwarding why we need this grant. Along with that, what we will probably also end up doing is, and this is where I think each one of you are going to be tremendously helpful. Any of the dangerous intersection sites, locations that you find, we'll probably start documenting them and adding them to the project proposal when we do them, when we actually submit them forward. So the two most important things that I think I would like each one of you to very seriously consider. One is that what is the format in which we can in fact produce a 20% match? So that is in kind, and I will share that federal regulation so that you have more detailed information on all the different ways we can come up with a 20% match. And then the second part of it is that how do you think safety is going to be implemented or viewed or understood by citizens in your area? Some of it could be as simple as looking at the crash data. Some of it could very easily be something like perception of feelings. So if you have a child that goes to school and there is this actually happened in the new school district where some of the families that wanted to walk their children to school, they were complaining about, I just don't feel safe, even though it's like 3 blocks from my house, but I have to get in the car. That is a safety concern, and those are some of the things that if we can document them, we can actually include them as part of our project.
That fact sheet has eligible activities, so you can think about that. I mean, obviously that's eligible for implementation, but we're talking about eligible for putting in the plan.
So if we have, good example, Valley Mills Drive, TxDOT facility, there is accident history there, there's not continuous sidewalk there. That's on my priority list. I don't think it's necessarily on their priority list because they don't want to have to deal with all the things that you have to deal with to do that. Is that one that we could champion from the city side?
Absolutely, yes, and in fact,
I got you guys.
yeah, in fact, one of the things I realized that, so especially, so I believe that there was a discussion of what happens on state-funded roads, and so if the state is not eligible for any of this money, how do we handle that? And the question was that any city can actually propose it as long as they can show that the state has offered the right of way, and if it is included as part of the, we can in fact use some of that work as a 20% match.
Yeah,
And
we
so-
have good data there,
Yeah.
and good accident. Well,
So,
not that accident history is good, but there is significant accident history.
so what I'm thinking is this, so at this point in time, we basically have roughly so they mentioned that by the end of this month, they will have the notice of funding opportunity available. And what that means then is that by June meeting, if we could narrow down, so I really strongly feel that we do need to apply for the comprehensive safety action plan. But at the same time, I think we should identify at least a few projects that we can champion and push for, and some preliminary ideas on what might they actually be like. Yeah, so one of the things that became very clear during the webinar was that making the application in conjunction with each other quite often, because safety is not seen as, at least it is very encouraging that federal higher administration is not looking at safety as a point specific problem. So they are looking at safety as a system-wide problem. And what that means is that even if we are looking for implementation grant or implementation project at one location, we probably ought to produce this or make the proposal collectively as a joint effort. And that impression that I was given during the webinar was that part of the rating criteria is going to be how coordinated this project is, because they are looking at these safety more as system-wide concern rather than a location-specific concern. So whatever project there might be, I think this is a really great opportunity for us to move forward. And over the next 5 years, we probably do need to maximize. One of the other things that I think we need to keep in mind also is that if I had to make a guess, so they mentioned that maximum any state can receive out of this money is going to be 15%. And what that means is that my guess is that Texas, California, Florida, at least these 3 states will probably max out their 15%. And what it also means is that it's going to be a little bit competitive for us, a little more competitive for us than it would be for, I don't know, places Rhode Island, for instance, and it would be, because they are also with 15% cap, but they simply do not have as much roadway or as much VMT. So it is going to be competitive, and so it's important that we make sure that we put together the best proposal that we can put out. And so please do consider these 2 items. So both types of proposal, a comprehensive safety action plan, as well as a few implementation projects. I think we should push for both of them and what they might be in your community so that we can, even the implementation projects, for instance, each project does not have to be applied for separately unless it is a really large project. If it is a large project, then we probably should apply for them separately. However, if there are a series of different projects that are happening, whether it is in terms of raised crosswalks or whether it is in terms of applying different kind of striping so that we can create a higher level of visibility for different, or it could be in something as simple as trying to manage the right lane turn over a site over bike lanes, for instance, because we know that for most of the bike car crashes often happen on free right turn on the vehicles and the bicyclists assume it. So if those kinds of projects, we can probably implement them and offer them as a project for the entire region simultaneously supported by every municipality. And I think that will give us a really good leg up in making sure that we can get these funds.
Yeah, just to throw it out there, Valley Mills Drive is city of Beverly Hills as well. So.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So I will say that to dovetail in on it, the city of Beverly Hills, I've asked somebody from the city of Beverly Hills to be the representative for the North Small Cities. They're interested in doing that, so it'll go before Commissioners Court on May the 17th. And so every one of us here is represents our own areas, and so somebody from Beverly Hills will be representing Beverly Hills, Ross, Leroy, Colson, and West. And then on Tuesday, Commissioners Court approved Tom Dixon, Chief Dixon of Marina, to be the small cities representative for the South cities, which is Beverly Hills, Moody.
Marina, Bristol.
Marina, exactly. Well, that's Hilton. Yeah.
I went to Bruce Lady, so I know.
Yeah, Bruce Lady, yeah.
So any other thought or questions on how might we approach? So at the next meeting, I will bring forward. So number one, if you have any idea or thought process, please do email me so that we can have a conversation and I can start including it into our broad framework of how do we approach.
Okay, we're going to tell you, so we remember not to forget, but Serena and I want to join on a sidewalk project that ties into any of the bus routes that don't have continuous sidewalks, because I'm just finishing up a comprehensive sidewalk inventory in the city with Blue Grove. So I will have good, fair, poor, non-existent for all roads within the city.
And I
after
can
they
tell
finish
you
those processes.
Once we find out when this application probably won't be due till maybe July, August, later, snow flows just coming out.
Yeah.
So by then, we should have some clear direction on the project, which will allow me to incorporate that into, the next, implementation of this grant for sidewalks as well. So just wanted you to know.
Is Food Grow providing that in a GIS database. So then you could overlay your transit on top of that, and then where there's gaps, pull that out, and then you have those areas.
Yeah, they're doing pavement condition too, and as long as they were doing that data collection, it was relatively inexpensive to have them collect other attributes as well. So they're also doing bike lanes too. So bike lanes, short pavement markings, crosswalks, sidewalks. That's about it in the ancillary data they're collecting for us.
And if there is any question that, no, I don't have answered to all the questions. What I would probably also do is that all the questions I have, I'll probably email those questions to the people who are presenting to the webinar so that we have more clarity on. So they have a list of eligible activities that listed there. But on some of the questions about what kind of project is going to be eligible, it seemed like things were a little fluid. So they did not really have great clarity about this is exactly, we will know that this is eligible, and this is not. So if there is any of these projects that you want, let me know. I can put it into a one series of questions and I can email them. But this would be this is a major opportunity for us to do something about it, and I think it's really important that we go ahead and collectively figure out how do we want to tackle safety. And as I mentioned before, it's deeply important to me that we have focused most of our effort on distracted driving, which I think is important, but an extremely limited part of safety concern. Quite a lot of it really is the physical context of it. And it's easy. One of the things that I find really impressive is that at the Federal Highway Administration, people really are thinking about how do we approach this on a system-wide basis. The way I see it, that this is a major opportunity when at federal level they are thinking about system-wide concerns about view of safety. We might have to take advantage. Okay, I just have two very quick announcements. One is that we are about to make offers to 3 interns, and so at the next meeting, hopefully I will have at least 1 or 2 of them. If they happen, they're going to be working remotely for the most part, but if they happen to be here, then of course I will introduce them to you. We have announced for 2 more positions because right now it's just 2 of us, and it's hard to get much sleep actually working for MPO at the moment. So for those 2 positions, we will probably start interviewing sometime at the end of May. And so 15th of May is the deadline. If you have some transportation planners that you're familiar with who is looking to move, please by all means let them know. Just a few announcements. Our next meeting will be June 2nd at 2 p.m. at the same location. And at the next meeting, some of the tentative agenda items are going to be the PPP amendments. We'll give a report on the National Bike Month. Our Bike Ed Work Group meeting is May 18th. If you can make it, please do come. We'll have work group updates, textile construction updates, and any other item that you might have on your mind.
Election of officers.
Election of officers. Yes, thank you very much. We tabled it. And do you want to announce this?
The textile Waco district planners are all at their conference this week, but they asked that we just mention that they're going to be doing a virtual public meeting on the rural transportation improvement program. So that's Limestone Hill, Falls, Austin, Hamilton, and Coryell counties. So if you're interested in listening to that, it'll be projects and strategies that they're proposing for the next 4 years in those counties. So if you want that information, just ask me. There's a QR code.
Any final question, comment before we adjourn?
I have one. I'd like to maybe, I had printed out from the 2021, it says up here fiscal year 2019, but fiscal year down here, fiscal year 2021, the Unified Planning Work Program list of technical committee members in the MPO staff, and it just needs to be updated.
It's been updated.
And I'm sure it has, but I think it's helpful if whenever we come to these meetings, if you have maybe a stack of these so that people that, when we have new people, they want to know who's on the technical advisory committee. They can grab one and take it with them, and then, maybe even having an email address or a phone number associated with it, so that if they want to contact somebody because of something they said in here, they've got that contact
Well, I
information.
think that most people would feel more comfortable if.
Or if it was available from y'all.
Yeah, yeah, if
Yeah.
you just let us know, but.
Yeah.
But it is updated on the website, and I know sometimes our website is hard to get to because it's kind of embedded. But if you just Google Waco MPO, that's the fastest way to get there. And it actually has been updated.
Okay, great.
And it's actually been updated in the tip, which is, you got that in the UPWP, but. But I finally stayed the other night and got it done. But it is correct on the website. But it'll change as soon as, as soon as, I think we've got, well, I do have Matt's name on. I do have your name on there, but. And I've got your name on there. But there's gonna be a couple more people, so it just.
Well, maybe once
it's-
it gets
yeah.
updated, maybe it can be emailed out or.
Mhm. I'll just tell everybody.
You
I'll
got
be-
the link.
Yeah.
Yeah. there's-
Great, thank you. If there is no other matter, then meeting is adjourned. Brigida, I never got a chance to ask you if you had anything to add.
Problem, Mukesh. I will email you. Thank you.
Great, thank you.